Welcome back to Tightwad Workshop. A while ago somebody gave me these vice grips to repair. Somehow this adjuster bolt's been bent and it won't screw in all the way anymore. And that means that the jaws don't close up all the way anymore either. It's really hard to straighten a threaded part like this accurately enough for it to still work when you're done. Normally in this situation I'd just search through my bucket of miscellaneous bolts to find a replacement, but this one's a weird non-standard size. According to this gauge it uses a 1.5mm metric screw thread, but it's also 11mm in diameter. So based on all that, this seems like a good project for showing how to cut bolt threads in the metalworking lathe. I'll start by setting up my lathe to cut the 1.5mm screw threads. In very simple terms, a screw cutting lathe like this one uses this accurately machined lead screw as a template to cut the screw threads into a workpiece. The lead screw is connected to the lathe spindle by a train of gears. If we set up a gear train that turns the lead screw at exactly the same speed as the spindle, then we'll end up making a duplicate of the lead screw. But we want to make a 1.5mm thread pitch, so we'll consult the chart on the inside of this door and set up the correct gear train to do that. Once the gears are installed, I'll give them some oil, then close the door again. Now we can insert some mild steel bar into the collet chuck. I usually use this collet chuck for this kind of small diameter work because it's easier than centering things in the 4-jaw chuck. Now we can install the tool and face off the end of the bar. I'm running the lathe spindle at 1000 RPM for this operation. Next, I'll install a drill chuck in the tailstock and centre drill the bar. This operation's done at 600 RPM. The centre drill has a central pin surrounded by a 60-degree tapered section. That central pin's very fragile and easy to break, so you need to be gentle with it when you're drilling this hole. Now we can loosen the collet and extend a suitable length of the steel bar to make our bolt. Our bolt will be 70mm long with a 10mm head. Now we can fit the live centre. The live centre supports the end of the bar and prevents it from flexing while we're machining it. Our raw stock is 16mm in diameter, and we need to reduce the shank part of our bolt down to 11mm. I'll run the lathe at 1000 RPM for this operation as well. It looks like that bar has a bend in it, but we'll be machining it back into round anyway. It looks like I managed to hit a final dimension of 11.01mm. But we're not making moon rockets here, so that's plenty close enough. Now I'll fit the thread cutting tool into the tool post. We use this gauge to make sure that the cutting tool has the correct 60-degree angle on its point and that it's perpendicular to the workpiece. Only this leading edge of the tool is going to be used to cut threads into the metal. We'll be using the compound slide on the lathe to push the tool in this direction to make that happen. I've already adjusted the angle of the compound slide to 60 degrees here, so when I turn the hand wheel, the cutting tool will move in the correct direction. Now I'll use the cross slide to bring the tool into contact with the workpiece. Then I'll set its indicator dial to 0. Our next step is to set the lathe to its slowest available speed, in this case that's 60 RPM. Now I'll activate the lead screw drive and engage the half nuts around the lead screw. Next we'll move the compound slide inwards by 0.5mm. Then set the motor to forward and switch it on. I'll be cutting the thread 0.5mm deeper with each pass because this is a small lathe and I'm just using a tiny cutting tool. I'll stop the motor when the tool gets to the runoff channel. Now I'll wind the cross slide out half a turn, set the motor in reverse, restart it, and stop it again at the far end. Now I'll wind the cross slide back into 0, Move the compound slide in another 0.5 millimetre, set the motor back to forward and start the next pass. It'll take 6 passes to cut the threads to their full depth. We need to retract the tool at the end of each pass because otherwise it'll catch on the threads on our return pass and damage them. Well, according to our thread profile gauge, that's complete. So if we've done it right, we should be able to screw the vice grips onto the bolt. Now we need to use a knurling tool to make a grippable pattern on the bolt head. This tool is used at low speed, but it needs a lot of pressure against the workpiece, and it works best with plenty of oil on the metal. Now I'll use this pointed lathe tool to remove the sharp edges from the bolt head. And finally I'll use a parting tool to cut the bolt from the bar. I'll just remove that live centre first. Now I'll put this plastic tray underneath to catch the bolt. Parting off is always a slow process in a small lathe like this one. And there's our almost finished bolt. The parting tool usually leaves this little nub, but it's easily removed with a few strokes from a file. So now let's reassemble the tool and try it out. That's all for now. Thanks for watching. Tightwad Workshop is filmed in front of a live studio audience.